And if you could just introduce yourself.
I play keyboards in Alice.
My name is Anna Maria, and I am the founder and vocalist in the band Vajra.
What was the initial start?
Yeah, so we all have pretty storied histories.
I was just bored during COVID. Did a little demo, put it out, and it was pretty well received by the community. And
always had a thing for horror punk and stuff.
Something that started with me and a laptop during quarantine, and just like, oh yeah, you know, all those times I said, if only I didn't have to work my job all the time, and now it's like I could have time to do that. Well, now this is that.
All right. And if you could introduce yourself to the fine folks at home, I'd really appreciate that.
My name is Zhaklina. That's spelled Zhaklina, and that is also my artist's name. I go by my name. I'm an alternative pop rock artist, originally from the Hudson Valley in New York. I moved to Nashville to continue growing in my music career in 2018. I've been advocating for mental health through my music since 2017, and that's been a huge part of my story, my music branding, and it's also led me to start hosting mental health songwriter nights in Nashville about a year and a half ago. And what we do in those nights is artists come out and play their music, talk about mental health, and we fundraise for mental health organizations. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. So when I first heard about you, it was actually through Anastasia Elliott. She posted something on Facebook and it directed me to that event you were talking about. And I saw pictures and everything, and I was like, okay, well, if she likes you, I've got to at least, figure out what's going on there and whatever. And I went through and I saw some music videos by you, and I think, let's see, it was, I think Game Over, I think was the music video I saw. And then I watched Solitude and Pretend, and I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, this style is so eclectic, and it's kind of like in all these different places, but it all kind of fits together. I really liked on Solitude, like the kind of soulful feeling that you had kind of going through it. It just felt kind of somber, but really like beautiful at the same time. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we, go any further. So you mentioned a little bit about it, but why don't we start by talking about your history? How did you really get started in music and going through the process that you are, on your journey?
Yeah. So I have been singing ever since I was like a baby, I would say. My earliest memories of practicing singing was to Celine Dion. My Heart Will Go On. When I was like 4 or 5 years old, I was like really wanting to belt like Celine Dion. We lived in this apartment in the Bronx, and I definitely annoyed our neighbors, and I like 100% annoyed my family too. They were always yelling at me to be quiet, but I was like, I will belt like Celine Dion. And I've always loved singing. She was probably like the first vocalist to inspire me. Throughout school, I would participate in choirs and theater, started participating in competitive a cappella groups, and really going after cool roles in musical theater shows in school. I got into the rock scene in middle school, which makes sense. A lot of people do. I just never fully grew out of it. Like, it's always a part of my story and also my music. But Evanescence is one of my biggest inspirations, and a lot of people can like say that they can hear her influence in my like the way that I sing and my music, which is really, really cool. But I continued singing throughout high school. I started writing music just for fun. When I was about 11 or 12 years old, I was given a songwriting book by an aunt as a gift. It was a birthday gift. I was really into poetry. I loved writing stories. Like, English was one of my favorite classes, English and choir. And so I graduated, went into college, continued doing music, More like for fun. Like I continued to participate in competitive a cappella groups, and choir and doing shows and all of that. Because for a long time, I thought that it was like impossible to pursue a career in music unless you like made it big. And like I had this very narrow idea of what success in the music industry looked like. And just a lot of like pressure to just like think outside of music for like pursuing a career that is actually stable, because the reality is like this isn't the most stable career choice, but there's so many different ways I've learned that you can make money as a musician, make money as an artist. And after I graduated college and started to really dive into working full time and not being in school anymore, I also kept running into all of these really cool experiences with music and found myself in a competition in New York that I ended up winning, and singing live at this huge music festival called K-Fest, meeting all these record executives, and just kind of talking to them about the kind of artist that I wanted to be, because up until that point, I wouldn't have considered myself an artist. I would have just considered myself a singer, and I wrote songs occasionally. And they gave me a lot of really great feedback that I took to heart. And that was in 2015. Between 2015 and 2017, I really worked hard to hone in on my artistry. And around 2017 was when I was like, okay, I'm an alternative artist. That's like the umbrella genre that I want to be under. I also figured out the kind of music I wanted to release, like what I stood for, and mental health meant a lot to me. So that's a huge part of my branding as well. I was writing songs and releasing them and distributing them for the first time in my life, and that was really cool. Getting them like recorded in studios was a really exciting experience. And from 2018 to now, it's just kind of been like, I feel like I've like fast tracked like so many years. Like everything I've been doing in that time, I almost feel like I've been making up for, because I wish I had started pursuing this when I was younger and believed that I could do it. But part of my story is telling people that it's never too late. And there's so many incredible things that I've been able to do, and all the ways that I've grown as an artist. Now as an adult too, like I'm grateful that I am pursuing it as an adult, because I feel like I'm a little more mature than I was when I was younger. And I've grown a lot, and I feel like I can handle certain things that maybe I couldn't have when I was younger. But I really know who I am as an artist, and I feel like that is attributed to all the time that I did take to think about this career choice. And I am just creating so much music and performing a lot. I have an official band now, and that's really exciting. Um, and just doing really meaningful things with my work.
Well, first of all, congratulations on the band. That is really cool. I'm happy for you. I'm that's like going from being like, just the singer-songwriter on your own to being able to work with people and kind of, take that whole extra step that way. That's it's such a fun experience. I've done it a couple of times in my own life, and you're gonna have a lot of fun going that route. I think it's gonna be great. On that same note, you had mentioned that, it's never too late to kind of like try things and, try and get back into it, and you feel you're more mature now. I can definitely relate to that. I'm an amateur musician myself personally. I am starting again on my journey for the second time doing this whole thing. Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy because like you're right. You're an as you get older, the things that held you back, whether they're mental blocks or financial blocks or whatever, as an adult and the older you get, you just seemingly seem to be able to handle them more, or at least the stress that comes with them, you have better tools to cope with them. And I'd like to think that I'd like to think that that kind of also ties into what you're talking about mental health and things like that, and how you're an advocate for that. I like how you're living your principles. Like you're living your dreams and you're going out and you're advocating for these things, but you're also living it. You're showing people, hey, like I may have had this dream when I was younger and I may have, gone different ways or whatever, but I'm here now and I'm pursuing it and still doing what I love. And I think that's really cool. So you mentioned some of your influences. You mentioned Celine Dion, and I believe you mentioned a second one, but I wasn't able to mentally jot that down. What was the second one you were saying?
Evanescence.
Evanescence, that's right. So of those two artists, who would you say influences you the most, and what other artists do you find influence you, whether they're big artists or whether they're local artists that you know and you've worked with?
Yeah. Of the two, we'll start there. I would say Evanescence. Because it's not just the way that she sings and her vocals. I think she emotes so well through her vocals. And she has just this gorgeous tone. And I did a lot of opera in school too. So I like incorporating that as well, and she incorporates that. But her songwriting is so deep and like powerful, and I feel like she writes about things that you don't really see a lot of artists writing about. And that was one of the reasons why I started listening to her when I was in school, because I don't know if you know anything about the Enneagram. I'm a personality nerd, but I'm an Enneagram, which is like the most sensitive Enneagram type. I'm like a highly sensitive personality. So I would be, when I felt sad, I was feeling really sad. When I felt frustrated, I was feeling pretty frustrated. And I didn't really have a lot of space to feel those feelings in a safe way in my home. So I turned to music, and finding artists that I felt like their songs were literally what I was feeling, I feel like helped me get through so much. And so I wanted to, that's part of why, like, I feel like I resonate with Evanescence, because I want to continue to create music that other people feel that way about. That, like, I'm not just releasing this like uppity pop stuff all the time. Like, there's a lot of really deep things that I talk about in my music that it's just really important to me that people can find relatability through, and that they feel like somebody's there and they're not alone. I just feel like Amy Lee did an incredible job, and I mean all of Evanescence, because I'm sure like other people helped her write her music too, including her band. And then on top of that, the piano outside of singing is like my favorite instrument. And I always wanted to learn how to play piano, and talk about taking forever to start really doing this. Like, I would like pick it up here and there, but I didn't officially commit to learning how to play and actually playing live until like 2018 when I moved here. That's when I started practicing. And then during COVID, I really like practiced a lot because I had the time. Couldn't really do much else. And that's when I started performing live. And I'm just I always tell everybody I'm a late bloomer with like everything. So but now like I'm finding myself playing the keys in my music, playing the keys in my band, playing the keys live all the time. I've been writing to the piano for a while now. So Evanescence, obviously, I love her and everything that, well, Amy Lee, I love her and her band. Other artists, I feel like this could be like a whole podcast interview of its own, because I'm so inspired by anyone that's an artist, like no matter how different they are. I would say this is not going to be in any particular order. It's just going to be the ones that pop into my mind. Paris, spelled Pvris. They're like an alternative band. That's a huge inspiration for me. Florence and the Machine. I am a hippie at heart. Talk about poetic songwriting. I mean, like, I feel like Florence Welch writes some of the most incredible music. Like, her songs are just so cool. Christina Aguilera played a really big role in inspiring me. Avril Lavigne played a really big role. A lot of like like a mixture of pop and rock artists. Bishop Briggs is a really big one. She's kind of newer to the inspo field for me. I would say I think I discovered her in 2016 and I like fell in love with her. So she's definitely a big inspiration for me as well. Um, I recently discovered Paris Paloma. And although like vocally her style is really different from mine, I love her branding and her music. And I've been listening to her a lot lately as well. And she's been kind of inspiring some of the newer stuff that I'll be coming out with soon. So yeah, that's a little bit. I'm telling you, I can keep going, but I'm gonna
Oh,
stop it.
the music videos that you do, all of them are really interesting. The two that I think like really stood out to me the most, I'll say three. I think the way you did Solitude, the open nature of it is what I'm gonna call it. It was very like just you in the room with the candles singing the song, but the way you did it was really cool and it was very emotive and it was very powerful. And then I would say Game Over, I think I really enjoyed all of the like crazy artistic like aestheticism that you had going on there. Like if you're at home and you're watching this, go check out that video and then go listen to her music because I'm telling you, like it's a total package. When you watch the video, you'll understand what I'm saying. It's awesome. I love it. And then the same thing with Pretend. I read the warning at the beginning of it. I understand that that might be hard for some people, but that video was incredibly powerful, and so was all of the music like attached to it. That just the art, the visual aspect of your art and the singing and music just fit so well together. And I'm curious, like, have you always known how you wanted to like sync up those elements of your art? Because that doesn't always come natural to people who are musicians and who are artists. Sometimes they focus really hard on just song crafting and storytelling, but they don't really take into account the other aspects of being an artist in modern times, which is often both visual as well as, auditory in the case of musicians. So I'm curious, like, have you always known like how you wanted to go that way, or was that something you learned while you were, making your way through this journey?
A little bit of both. So with my theater background, I have very and also just like my personality too and my imagination. I've always just been this wildly imaginative kid, daydreaming all the time. My mom always told me to get my head out of the clouds because she'd be talking to me about something that was happening right there in front of us, and I'd be like daydreaming about some kind of fantasy thing that wasn't actually true, just lost in storytelling in my mind. And then theater was an incredible outlet for me to just get out a lot of really cool creativity and wear all the cool costumes and be a part of all the really cool imaginative stories. And I just nerd out on all of that. I'm super into musicals. I was definitely a theater nerd. And so I think that the combination of like my experience growing up, and all of that nurturing with art and music and the visuals, on top of just the way that I feel like God made my personality, going into this as like a professional career avenue for myself, pretty much every song I write has like very vivid, very strong visuals attached to it. Like when I go to write my music, I'm like, I naturally have all of these different ideas come up for like visual ways to express the message or the story that I am telling. And when I choose a song to make a music video for, because realistically, I wish I could do a music video for every single song, but at this time, like I can't really afford that as much as I wish I could. So I have to be picky. So when I choose the song, it's got to be the one that's had like the strongest vision. And I tend to storyboard everything. And I don't go to videographers and ask them to come up with the visuals and storyboard for me. I go to them and I say, this is what I want. Like, are you willing to work with me? Can we make this happen? And I play a very close role in coming up with all of those details. It's so important to me that the story is visually told in the most clear and like authentic way in relation to the lyrics that I write. I will say that I've grown a lot in the different ways that visuals can be communicated through my experience as an artist and meeting other artists and just beginning to really research music videos because I don't think I studied them. I would say like I watched them for fun and I thought they were really cool, but I didn't really begin studying music videos until I moved here and was like, okay, I got to get some really cool visuals out to support my brand and my music. So in terms of like, I guess just sharpening those skills, I would say that that didn't start to happen more until I got deeper into my career, but there's always been this visual aspect for me to every song that I've written. I don't want to feel like I have to hide my faith ever, and I want to be honest about it and talk about it and hopefully inspire other people. But I also didn't want to be stuck under the label of Christian music because I felt like that really limited my ability to connect with listeners. And I feel like you can connect with people of all kinds of faiths and belief systems through music without having to say like, this is what you have to believe. My husband actually plays guitar, so we've been writing a lot since I met him. The music version of Alice in Wonderland. My music goes down a rabbit hole, but instead of the rabbit hole being like super trippy and all this other stuff, the rabbit hole is full of mental health.
So what I'm curious about though is do you start with the music or do you start with the lyrics? I suspect you start with the lyrics. That's because you're a vocalist and that's my go-to, but I don't feel that's always the case because some of the music that you've put out is like it definitely sounds like there's strong rhythms and grooves in it that like might come from starting in that place. So I guess what I'm getting at is does it matter to you if you start, from the instrumental point of view, or do you start with an idea and then work lyrics out and then go to music from there?
It's a little bit of both. I don't have like a set like structure to how I write. It's mostly again feelings. Lots of feelings. So some of my music started off with lyrics. Like I'm not kidding. There have been some of my songs that I've woken up in the middle of the night and I couldn't go back to sleep, and I would just start writing like kind of like poetry, and then it would turn into a song, and then all of a sudden I get like a really cool like chorus melody come into my head, and I'm like, all right, I gotta go write this, and like I'll go like quietly write it so I don't wake my husband up. And that's just, I mean, not just in the middle of the night, but just like a lot of times, whether I sit down to write or like sporadically have this really cool idea that just pops up into my head, I try my best to write those words down. And if there is like a melody that comes up, I'll record it on my phone. I have so many different recordings on my phone. And then I'll build the song from there. But there's also times where this happens a little more with co-writes when I'm writing with other people. This has happened with like Gossip Queen is a song that I have out, and that's the first song I wrote with my husband. And we started with him coming up with the guitar part, and then basically what I do is I listen to the instrumental, and I try and figure out how it makes me feel, what I want to write about, and then I go from there when it comes to the lyrics. I'm known for writing songs in like an hour and a half, which is pretty crazy. But they just come out really quickly. I don't always finish them in that time. And what I mean by that is like I'll go back like for several months. I'll go back to that song and I'll revise it and I'll change a lyric here, I'll change a lyric there. It takes me a little while to feel like, okay, this song is like ready to record, or to even decide if I want to record it, because I have so many songs that I haven't recorded. But yeah, I would say a little bit of both. Really depends on the context of the songwriting. Was this like an inspiration that just kind of came to me, or was this like I carved out the time to write? Is it just me writing? Am I writing with someone else? And then who I'm writing with, the way they write plays a really big factor. Like some people are a lot more structured about their songwriting than I am. Some of them are even more free-flowing than I am. So there's a lot of gray in this part of writing, I would say. Every song has a different story to how it was written. I should probably share those stories. That's an idea. But yeah.
Well, that's really cool. That's really cool. And like you mentioned several habits that you have and how like sometimes things just come to you. One of the habits that stuck out to me was that you record things on your phone. I have in my personal life, when I get an idea or something for the music I write, I find I do that. I also keep a journal and I, write these things down. And for people at home that are interested in pursuing music and doing things like that, these are habits that you should practice. Whether they produce something or not is irrelevant. In a previous interview, I mentioned that I have started writing one song every single day it's been a year now. And like, it doesn't matter if they're garbage. You just write for the sake of writing, just practice. And if you never show it to anyone, it doesn't matter. The fact that you're writing, that could trigger an idea here, move you over here. Maybe you get a sound in your head that you want to associate with things and move other places. So people at home, keep that in mind. Like if you are looking to pursue these kind of things, the advice that you're getting here is really solid. And this is from people that have done it, whether they consider themselves professionals or whether they consider themselves an amateur like myself. So I think one of the things, we talked about who inspires you, but who are some local bands that if you were going to give a shout out that you would be excited for people to go see, whether it's see them live, whether they are people you have played with or you're going to play with, that you would recommend people go and check out?
Yeah. The first artist that I would have to give a shout out to has to be Anastasia Elliott. She is one of the coolest entertainers that I have ever had the pleasure of seeing and also getting to know. We are really good friends now. I love her so much. She also is the reason why we are talking today, which is really cool. But her music is so powerful. She puts on an incredible show. She has an amazing voice. And she's just a really great person. So that is one. My husband's band, because of a couple reasons, not just because he's my husband. They go by Hollow Wake. They are a post-hardcore rock band. So he does a lot of like cool screamo. And he's like a little edgier. And their band is sick and so much fun to watch. Like you are jumping the entire time. It's just awesome. Like if anybody out there who likes those like heavier bands, like this is a great one. And he also writes really interesting music. He taught himself how to play. He can play the drums. That was like his first instrument. Then he taught himself how to sing. Then he taught himself how to play the guitar. And I'm just like, wow, this is really cool. And all the songs that he's written are, I think, kind of similar to how I write. Like everything's by ear for him. And so he comes up with these really cool chords that you just don't really hear very often. It makes them like a hit, like a really catchy song. So when they're performing these songs live, they're just so much fun. They're catchy, and they're deep. He also writes about a lot of really meaningful things, including mental health. The third artist that I've really loved, like those are both like more rock. is Mary Moore. I don't know if you know her at all, but she's a little more like kind of like folk pop, and I would kind of compare her to Florence Machine a little bit. She's another incredible artist to watch. She writes really cool music too. She's got a really unique voice. She's got a very sweet spirit, and her shows are so much fun. So much fun to watch. Stevie Ray Stevens is also incredible. She's a pop artist. She's just super powerhouse. Like, if you love listening to those powerhouse female vocals, like, she is the artist for you. And she's always writing from the perspective of like empowering women, which I love. And she's also like a really cool person. She also hosts songwriters nights out here, probably one of the most like popular ones, and they're called Pin Drop. So anyway, that's a good one. Oh my gosh, I could just keep going on. I'm gonna stop there.
Okay.
That's it. There's a lot of really good ones. I'm gonna stop there.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's good that you have all these artists that you've associated yourself with, that you've gotten to know over the years, and that you really enjoy. And, that's something else. Remember, like, collaborate with people, meet people, and enjoy the experience while you're out there doing it. To anyone, watching this or listening, because like the memories you make when you're playing with people and the experiences you get are just, it's so fun. Like, it's so fun, and you're only going to be here in this moment in your life for so long, and then it's gone. So just enjoy those, and those moments, and get to know the people that you're going to be playing with, and really just kind of go for it. That's what I would say. I guess to kind of wrap things up, is there any events you want to throw out, or is there any do you want to throw out your social media or anything like that in closing?
Yeah. So my social media, my artist handle is for both Instagram and Facebook, and I believe TikTok too. Those are the three main ones that I'm on. I don't really do much outside of those three. I go by I am Zhaklina, so that's IAMZHAKLINA. And you can find all of my music under my name, Zhaklina. I also have a website that has like basically everything that you would need to find out about me on it. It's www.zhaklina.com. I also have my mental health songwriter nights, and that's probably the biggest thing that I would want to emphasize as far as shows go. These nights have been growing, and we recently had an incredible show at On Sea Blue in Hillsborough Village, and they invited us to come back. So I would definitely keep up with my mental health songwriter nights page, as well as my main Instagram, because I'm always announcing other shows there. But I will be having more mental health events at On Sea Blue, as well as some other places that I am working on getting these shows to. And then I also have new music coming out very soon as well. I am going to be releasing the final EP to my 17 Reasons Why series that I've been releasing since 2018. So I'm really excited about that. I feel like I'm closing a chapter that has been absolutely incredible. And I'm excited to be releasing the final parts of that story with everyone. And to begin sharing a lot of the new music that I have been writing and creating too.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. To the people at home, thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate you watching our show. And I just wanted to say thank you again for coming on. I really appreciate you doing that. It means the world.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for staying to the end of the episode. I really appreciate it. My name is William Hamilton, and I've been the host of this episode of Heartfelt Horror here on the Heartfelt Horror Media Network channel. We really do appreciate you guys staying to the end of these videos. While you're here, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like on the video, subscribing to our channel, leaving a comment down below, these little things really do go a long way to helping us, get our name out there and get our show out into the algorithm so other people like you can find us. So if you wouldn't mind doing that, we'd really appreciate it. Also, if you're looking for other ways to support the show, we have a Patreon. The link for that is going to be down here. You can copy that into the search bar and you'll find our page. Our Patreon is for $5 a month. For $5 a month, you're going to be able to help us buy all sorts of new equipment. You're going to help us be able to save up for different kind of developmental processes that we're going to be using to bring you new and different kinds of content besides these interviews. So if that sounds like something that interests you, please consider it. Again, it'll be $5 and the link to the Patreon is going to be down there below. So thank you so much for your time and have a nice day. Bye.